All right, today we are diving into a really different way of looking at high blood sugar. We're going to explore a theory that pretty much turns everything you thought you knew completely upside down.
Okay, so when you hear high blood sugar, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably too much sugar, right? Well, the source we're looking at today asks us to think about something totally different. What if the real issue isn't having too much of something, but not enough of something else? Now, I have to say, this is an alternative theory, definitely not mainstream medical advice, but that's exactly what makes it so interesting to dig into.
I mean, just think about that for a second. That one idea, it forces you to rethink everything. It's basically saying that high blood sugar isn't the actual problem. Nope, it's just a symptom, kind of like a clue in a much bigger mystery inside our bodies.
So, to really wrap our heads around this whole idea, let's use a simple analogy. Picture your body as an engine, a really complex biological engine. And like any high-performance engine, for it to run perfectly, it needs two opposing forces working together in perfect balance.
And here's how this theory breaks it down. You've got fat, which it calls the heating fuel. Think of this as the yang energy, the stuff that generates all the power and heat. Then, on the other side, you have sugar, and that's not fuel in this model, it's the cooling liquid. This is the yin energy, the stuff that keeps that engine from overheating, maintaining our stable body temperature.
So it all comes down to balance. It's really that simple. It's like a seesaw, right? When the hot energy from fat and the cold energy from sugar are perfectly level, everything's great, the body is happy. But the moment that balance gets thrown off and one side starts to dominate the other, well, that's when the trouble starts.
Okay, now we're going to get into the specifics, because this theory doesn't just say, there's a problem, it actually points to two completely separate conditions, two states of imbalance that, and this is the key part, often get confused for each other.
And this table here lays it all out beautifully. On one side, you have what the source calls the hot state. This is linked to type 2 diabetes, and it's supposedly caused by having way too much fuel or internal heat. But then you have the cold state, what it calls true diabetes, which is the complete opposite. It's caused by not having enough fuel.
Okay, so here is the big mind-bending idea of this whole theory. In this view, high blood sugar isn't the bad guy. It's actually the body's solution, a really smart protective response. The idea is when your body gets dangerously overheated from too much fuel, your liver jumps into action and releases sugar. Why? To act like an emergency coolant system, specifically to protect your brain from cooking.
And true diabetes in this model is the exact opposite problem. It's a mirror image. The body is too cold. It just doesn't have enough fuel. And if there's no excess heat, what do you not need? You don't need coolant. So the body just says, I don't need this sugar, and gets rid of it.
So that's the big question, right? How in the world can you tell if your body is running too hot or too cold? Well, according to this theory, the answer is surprisingly simple. In fact, it's something you can see for yourself every single day.
Yeah, forget about fancy lab tests for a second. This perspective suggests that one of the most basic things our body produces can act like a real-time energy meter, a little window into what's happening on the inside.
So let's break down the signals here. According to this source, if your urine is dark yellow, that's a big sign of the hot state, too much heat. If it's clear with just a light yellow tint, you're in that sweet spot, the balanced state. But if it's clear and you're going all the time, that points to the cold state, where you're actually lacking fuel.
And this right here, this is the core diagnostic tool in this whole theory. It's a pretty bold claim, isn't it? To link something so simple, something you see every day, directly to your body's internal temperature? And it identifies that dark yellow color as the key sign of that hot state, the one they associate with high blood sugar.
Okay, so if the problem is an overheated engine, what's the solution? How do we fix it? Well, as this theory proposes, it's all about getting back to that crucial state of balance.
And what's really fascinating is that the recommendations have nothing to do with cutting out sugar. That's not the focus at all. Instead, the entire strategy is about one thing: cooling down that internal heat of the hot state to let the body find its natural balance again.
So here's the three-step plan according to this source. And yeah, it's definitely not what you'd expect. First, drink a lot of water. Makes sense, right? Helps cool the system down. Second, exercise. You work up a sweat, you release heat energy. That also makes sense. And then comes step 3, the real curveball. Eat sweet foods. Why? To restock the body's coolant supply.
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. This is the hardest part of the theory to get your head around. The logic here is that the sugar already in your blood is on a mission. It's working overtime as an emergency coolant. So from this perspective, eating something sweet isn't adding fuel to the fire, it's actually like sending in reinforcements to help the body do its job of protecting the brain.
So when you boil it all down, what this theory is really asking us to do is to shift our focus, to stop looking so closely at just one single thing, sugar, and instead to zoom out. It wants us to look at the bigger picture, the body's overall temperature, its internal thermal balance.
And that's where we'll leave it for today. We've just walked through a really fascinating, and I have to say again, very alternative theory about a really common health issue. It is absolutely not mainstream medical advice, but it sure does leave you with a pretty wild question to chew on, doesn't it?